And we do have some breaking news coming into the newsroom right now. The entertainment industry mourning the life of the iconic record producer and music giant Clive Davis. We have just confirmed that he's passed away. The music visionary behind so many popular sounds across the last 6 decades, discovering and championing some of the biggest names in the industry, including Whitney Houston, Alicia Keys, Barry Manilow, Jennifer.
Strictly for the purposes of financial gain for those who have access to her estate, including Clive Davis.
The industry just lost one of its most powerful gatekeepers, and the timing has people staring at one old clip like it was a locked vault finally cracking open. For years, fans have replayed that strange moment when Whitney Houston walked into an interview with Brandy, Monica, and Clive Davis, smiling one second, whispering the next, then slipping Brandy a note that nobody outside that room has ever been able to explain. Hours later, everything changed. Now Clive is gone at 94, and the question that used to sound too wild to say out loud is suddenly back on everyone's lips. What was in that note, and why did Whitney look like she needed Brandy to understand it before anyone else did?
He needed her back. He needed her back, but he needed her back and under his control.
This is where the story gets messy, because Clive Davis was never just another executive in a suit. To the public, he was the golden-eared legend, the man who helped shape the sound of modern music and built careers that filled stadiums. To others, he represented the old record business at its coldest, the machine that could crown you, own you, polish you, drain you, and then replace you with the next young voice before the applause even faded. His family remembered him as a visionary and a father. Fans remembered the songs. But plenty of artists and insiders have always whispered a different version, one where the bright lights came with contracts, pressure, fear, and a price nobody fully understood until it was too late. Clive passed away at his Manhattan home after health struggles late in life, closing a career that stretched across generations. He had worked with everyone from Janis Joplin and Bruce Springsteen to Aretha Franklin, Alicia Keys, Santana, Usher, Outkast, and the notorious B.I.G. He helped build Arista, launched J Records, climbed back after scandals, and kept finding a way to stay near the center of the business no matter how many eras changed around him. Some people called him the last great record man. Others called him the perfect symbol of an industry that smiled in photos while quietly turning artists into products. And once Whitney Houston's name enters that conversation, the room gets colder. Whitney was only 19 when Clive signed her to Arista. From the beginning, he didn't market her like just another singer. He presented her like an event, a once-in-a-generation voice wrapped in elegance, discipline, and crossover appeal. He helped choose songs, build the image, and shape the debut that made her an international phenomenon. Whitney herself often described him with a mix of respect and tension. She called him almost like a father figure, someone with wisdom, taste, and a terrifying sense of what radio would accept. But father figures in the music business can come with fine print, and the more Whitney grew, the more people wondered where mentorship ended and control began. In the early years, that control looked like guidance. Whitney needed the right team, the right producers, the right songs, the right stage. Clive knew how to package greatness so the world would buy it. The problem is that when a singer becomes bigger than the package, everyone around her starts asking who really owns the miracle. Whitney had the voice, the charisma, the face, the reach, the cultural impact. The label had the system. Clive had the keys. And according to long-running industry chatter, Whitney eventually wanted more room than the system was willing to give her. She wanted more say, more freedom, more access to the rewards her own gift had created.
I had lived a life of fame and fortune and being in the, tabloids all the time.
That is why the Brandy note still matters. Brandy wasn't just a younger singer who admired Whitney. She was family in spirit, a student, a little sister, and in one very public fairy tale moment, Whitney's Cinderella. Their bond started long before the cameras caught that final strange exchange. Whitney had helped open doors for Brandy, stood behind her, encouraged her, and treated her like someone worth protecting. When Brandy later spoke about Whitney, the emotion never sounded rehearsed. It sounded like someone still carrying a conversation she wishes had lasted one more day. That is what makes the note feel less like gossip and more like a warning with a heartbeat. The moment itself was odd from every angle. Brandy and Monica were doing press with Clive nearby, trying to promote their reunion and new work together. Then Whitney appeared, damp, restless, playful but not quite settled, pulling attention toward herself in a way that felt both chaotic and deliberate. She spoke to Monica, greeted Clive, joked, hugged, moved around, and then somehow made sure Brandy received a private message right in front of everyone. It looked casual if you weren't watching closely, but once you watch it with everything that followed in mind, it feels like Whitney was performing a distraction. Keep Clive smiling, keep the room laughing, give Brandy the note, move fast. For years, Brandy refused to reveal what Whitney wrote. She said it was private, and that answer only made the internet more determined. People guessed it was spiritual advice. Others thought it was a personal apology. Some believed Whitney was asking for help. The most persistent theory was darker, that Whitney was warning Brandy about powerful people around them, especially Clive, and telling her not to get trapped in a deal she would regret. Now that Clive is no longer here to answer, the rumor machine has gone into overdrive, with fans insisting that the silence around the note was never about privacy alone. They believe it was about fear. The timing makes the whole thing feel even stranger. After that public encounter, Brandy and Whitney reportedly spoke for hours. Brandy later described that last phone call as emotional, loving, and heavy. They laughed, cried, prayed, remembered the past, and Whitney promised she would get better. She supposedly told Brandy that what she was facing was only a season, not the whole story. That line has haunted people because it sounds like someone trying to convince herself as much as the person listening. Brandy believed her. Why wouldn't she? Whitney had survived storms before. Whitney had stumbled and stood back up. Whitney had a voice that made impossible things feel temporary.
Did you at any stage think I may never sing again?
I never thought I wouldn't, or I couldn't. I just didn't want to.
But the next day changed music history forever. Whitney was found unresponsive in her Beverly Hills hotel suite, and the official explanation pointed to a tragic combination of drowning, heart issues, and substance-related complications. That is the version placed into the record. Still, many fans never accepted that the story was complete. They noticed Clive's famous pre-Grammy party was happening in the same hotel. They noticed the party went forward. They noticed how awkward, polished, and cold the explanations sounded afterward. Clive said Whitney loved that night and would have wanted the celebration to continue. To some listeners, that sounded respectful. To others, it sounded like business refusing to pause for grief. And that is the split in Clive's legacy. There is the official version, where he is the brilliant executive who saw what others missed and helped artists reach greatness. Then there's the backstage version, where brilliance and control are almost the same thing. Artists under his orbit often became massive, but not always free. TLC became one of the biggest groups in the world and still battled financial ruin. Toni Braxton sold millions and still ended up in bankruptcy court. LaFace, Bad Boy, Arista, J Records, RCA. The whole web of deals around him became part of a larger argument about who really profits when young talent becomes global property. With Whitney, the argument cuts deeper because her career was not just successful, it was historic. Her debut changed the ceiling for Black female pop stars. Her ballads became cultural monuments. Her version of I Will Always Love You turned a love song into a mountain. Clive understood her voice as both art and business. He knew how to place it where it would hit hardest. But the same machinery that elevated her may also have boxed her in. Whitney was not known as a songwriter with the kind of catalog control Michael Jackson fought for. She was the voice, the face, the vessel. The business around her decided how that vessel would be used. One rumor that never fully disappeared involves Michael Jackson. The story goes that Michael wanted Whitney for I Just Can't Stop Loving You during the bad era, and later there was interest around another possible duet. The public explanation was scheduling, timing, leaks, the usual industry fog. But fans have long wondered why two of the most gifted performers of their generation never received the full-blown duet treatment everyone knew would have dominated the charts. Some believe the label did not want Whitney standing too close to Michael's model of control, especially his ownership, his writing power, and his understanding of the business underneath the glamour. A duet might have been music magic. It might also have opened Whitney's eyes.
Coming through some things of adversity and getting through it was the...
Instead, Whitney was often steered into collaborations that kept the money and strategy inside the same corporate circle. Her duet with Aretha Franklin made sense musically and culturally, but it also made sense for Arista. That was Clive's genius. Every artistic choice could also be a business choice. Every sentimental moment could still have a ledger behind it. Nobody is saying the man lacked taste. The point is that taste can be profitable, and when one person controls the taste, the gate, the checkbook, and the narrative, artists can start to feel less like partners and more like beautifully lit investments. By the early 2000s, Whitney's relationship with the label became even more complicated. Her massive contract was sold to the public as a triumph, a $100 million statement that proved she was still royalty. But insiders have always whispered that such deals can become golden cages. The money comes in stages. The label recoups. The artist must deliver albums that perform. If the market changes, if promotion weakens, if public image gets messy, the same historic contract can turn into a trap. Suddenly the headline says power, while the paperwork says debt. Suddenly, the star who sold millions is still trying to climb out of obligations nobody on the outside can see. That is why some fans believe Whitney became more valuable to the machine as a legend than as a struggling living artist. It is an ugly theory, and there is no public proof that turns it into fact. But the theory survives because the industry has trained people not to trust its clean stories. Catalogs rise after tragedy. Streams surge. Reissues appear. Documentaries arrive. Tributes sell. A flawed, tired, complicated artist can be hard to market. A frozen icon is easier. That does not mean anyone planned what happened to Whitney. It does explain why people keep asking who benefited when her voice became untouchable memory instead of a human being still fighting for air. Now, bring Brandy back into the picture. In recent years, she has been opening up more than ever about the pressure of childhood fame, public judgment, painful relationships, and the emotional cost of growing up inside an industry that sees vulnerability as a marketing angle. She has spoken about Whitney with reverence, not as a headline, but as a real person who loved her, checked on her, and made her feel seen. So when people imagine Whitney slipping Brandy a warning, it lands because it fits the protective side of Whitney that fans believe in. Maybe the note was simple. Maybe it said stay strong. Maybe it said be careful. Maybe it said more than anyone was ready to hear.
At 3:55 p.m. this afternoon, Whitney Houston was pronounced at the Beverly Hilton Hotel.
The new wave of speculation claims Whitney knew Clive was interested in pulling Brandy closer into his world. At the time, Brandy and Monica were reconnecting professionally, and Clive's presence around their collaboration gave fans plenty to chew on. The theory says Whitney rushed in because she did not want Brandy walking into the same maze. The alleged message, according to online chatter, was basically to keep her distance, guard her career, and never hand over too much power to people who call control protection. Again, this is rumor, not confirmed record. But rumors become powerful when they answer the question people have been asking for years. Why did Whitney make that note so secret? There is another layer here that people forget. Whitney did not enter the room looking like a powerless person. She entered like someone who still knew how to command attention. Even in a vulnerable state, she understood cameras, timing, and distraction. She knew Clive. She knew Brandy. She knew how people read her. That note may have been private because it was personal, but fans believe the handoff was public because Whitney wanted proof that it happened. Not proof for court, not proof for headlines, but proof for memory. A signal, a breadcrumb. A last-minute move by a woman who had spent decades being interpreted by everyone except herself. Clive's defenders would say this is unfair. They would argue that he loved Whitney, championed her, fought for her records, and helped turn her into one of the greatest voices the world has ever heard. They would say executives make hard decisions, that labels are businesses, that artists and companies clash all the time, and that turning every difficult relationship into a sinister plot cheapens the work they created together. They would point to the a cappella opening of I Will Always Love You and say only a true believer would have pushed for something that bold. They would say without Clive, the world might not have received Whitney in the form we remember. But critics would fire back that love and ownership often wear the same suit in entertainment. You can adore an artist and still profit from controlling her. You can believe in her voice and still limit her choices. You can call her family and still treat her like an asset. That is what makes the Whitney and Clive story so uncomfortable. It is not a cartoon with one saint and one villain. It is a business relationship wrapped in affection, dependence, ambition, image-making, and power. The public saw hugs and award speeches. The paperwork saw obligations. Whitney stood in the middle, trying to be a person while the world demanded she remain a symbol.
Located her body inside this hotel. So far, police and the coroner are refusing to offer details about what may have caused her tragic.
The Brandy note has become the perfect symbol of that tension because it is small, silent, and still locked away. No leaked document, no dramatic recording. Just a folded message passed from one superstar to another while the most powerful man in the room smiled inches away. That is why people keep projecting meaning onto it. In an industry built on spectacle, the smallest hidden thing can become the loudest. Fans do not only want to know what Whitney wrote, they want to know whether she was trying to protect Brandy from a system that had already taken too much from her. They want to know whether the woman everyone thought needed saving was actually trying to save someone else. And now, with Clive gone, people are wondering who will start talking. Not just Brandy, not just Monica, not just the artists who smiled through old interviews. Everyone who survived the golden era of record deals has stories. Some will be flattering, some will be painful, some will probably be impossible to prove, but hard to ignore. The old guard protected its legends while they were present. Once they leave, the stories tend to loosen. Former assistants remember things, singers revisit contracts, friends reframe old warnings, family members question timelines. Suddenly, a polished legacy gets fingerprints all over it. That does not mean every online theory is true. Some fans take a single clip and build a mansion on a grain of sand. Some creators turn grief into content faster than a label can press a reissue. But it also does not mean the questions are worthless. The music business has a long history of taking young, gifted people and surrounding them with adults who say, trust me, sign here, smile there, sing this, don't ask that. Whitney's story sits at the center of that history because she gave the industry everything it claimed to love: beauty, discipline, range, elegance, global appeal, and a voice that could make strangers weep. And still, she looked lonely near the end. Maybe that is what makes Brandy's silence so heavy. Silence can be loyalty. Silence can be fear. Silence can be trauma. Silence can also be a promise. If Whitney asked Brandy to keep the note private, Brandy may feel that revealing it would turn a sacred final exchange into entertainment. But if the note contained a warning, fans argue that protecting Whitney might now mean sharing it. That is the impossible position. Keep the secret and people say the machine still wins. Reveal it and people say Whitney's private words became another product. Either way, Brandy is left holding the kind of memory no one should have to carry in public.
Leola Brown, Bobby Brown's sister, has said on several occasions that she was beat.
Clive Davis left behind a catalog of undeniable achievements and a cloud of unresolved questions. He helped create songs that became part of people's lives: weddings, heartbreaks, childhoods, family memories, and entire cultural eras. He also sat at the top of the business model many artists now describe as ruthless, unfair, and emotionally brutal. Both can be true. A man can have golden ears and iron hands. A label can build a superstar while quietly shrinking her options. A mentor can be remembered with gratitude and suspicion at the same time. That is why this story refuses to stay buried under tribute posts and polished obituaries. So where does that leave Whitney's note? Still hidden, still debated, still powerful because nobody knows what it said. Maybe it was a blessing. Maybe it was a warning. Maybe it was Whitney trying to tell Brandy that the smiles around them were not as safe as they looked. Maybe it was one final act of protection from a woman who knew the machinery too well. What do you think Whitney wrote to Brandy that day? Do you believe Clive's legacy is being judged too harshly, or do you think artists are finally free to speak now that the old gatekeeper is gone? Leave your thoughts in the comments under the video.